to Aviation Lovers QLD. I have an interview today here with Trent Robinson from Flight Training Australia podcast. Hi, Trent, all the way from
Helen, how you
Darwin
going?
to Queensland. Now, how did you get into aviation?
Look, my dad was a pilot with Ansett, so I was around airplanes as a little kid all the time. Used to go around the airport in Melbourne and down that way. So always going out to little airport trips and that sort of thing. So I guess, yeah, once you know what an aeroplane is, what else do you want to do? So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool getting to do those sort of things. And then, yeah, once I got into high school and everything else, then it was pretty obvious that when I finished year 12 and all that, that's what I wanted to do and got my license.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it when everyone started like in the early years, like 16 or 15, and I feel like I'm learning at 42, so like everyone's got a head start.
Yeah. No, I decided that I would wait till I finished high school because I knew if I started before, then school would have suffered greatly. So
Oh yes, and
finishing off
flying's
that
more
first,
exciting. Yes.
definitely would have been distracted. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
stuck with
get,
flight sim and that sort of thing instead.
oh, that's amazing. Now, what was your first lesson like?
Oh God, look, I don't remember to be honest. I remember my instructor. I'm still in touch with him now. Um, he was a grade 3 when he started, so we went through the process. I remember meeting him. He worked at Ansett. It's interesting actually because now I think about it. He was a grade 3 looking for students. He actually worked the document control at Ansett and got to meet my dad, and then the dad put us in touch. And yeah, he was doing all the little things to sort of help me work out what to do and how to start. And I was enrolling into the aviation course at Edith Cowan University back then in Perth, and he was helping me with that. And yeah, little did I realize, he was doing the grade 3 thing of just, helping out and looking for students and helping out. And he was fantastic. And like I said, we still talk today. But yeah,
Oh.
look, as far as the initial lessons ago, it was just so long ago. That was all 1995. So it was a bit too long ago to really remember specifically, but I do remember elements of it all.
Do you remember what
But
plane you
yeah, like
started
this,
in? Or what
yeah, it was a
plane?
152.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, Aero Club ran 152s, and then there was a Curtin Flying Club that operated out of Perth as well, and they had Cessna 152, 172, and a 182, and they
Wow.
were slightly cheaper for club airplanes. So that was probably make most people's eyes water, but that was about $99 an hour with the instructor back then. So,
I remember
and I think it was even cheaper before then, but yeah.
well, I started in a Cessna and it was expensive, and now I'm learning in a Technam, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you, Technam.
Yeah,
All right. So,
yeah.
first time doing circuits were exciting and nerve-wracking. How fun or nervous was it for you?
Look, yeah, look, it's such a blur. I can remember my first solo. I
Yeah.
can I can remember that because I actually had a little bit of a mistake and I ran off the runway a little bit. It
Oh,
was the landing and everything was fine, but what often happened sometimes was, at Jandakot being very busy, they would want us to try and get off the runway and that sort of thing. So my instructor, unbeknownst to me, would help me brake a little bit. So we'd pull off on the runway, and then when it was my turn to do it, I just sort of misjudged the braking requirements and
no. Oops.
just tried to take the corner a little bit too fast and just went off on a 45-degree angle into the grass. And but the aeroplane was all fine, and it was just a little bit embarrassing. They're all having a good laugh when we got back.
It's a
But
good
I certainly remember that.
coffee and beer story.
Yes.
Now, if you go back in time, who would you fly with and what aircraft?
That's such go back in
Sorry.
time. I don't know. Yeah, who would I fly with?
Would there be a
I
famous
don't know.
aviator?
Look, I don't really have a favorite aviator and an individual one, but I would love to go back and fly. I guess you can still do it today, but I'd love to go back and fly the Mustang or the Spitfire Corsair. The
Oh,
Corsair is
hell
my
yeah.
favorite aircraft,
Is
so
it,
I would love to do that. But I guess, if you're going to go back in time or do something, like, the Wright brothers are the ones that are recognized as the first aviators and the ones that made it happen, and just to be around them to watch just them designing it all and that sort of thing, or even, Leonardo da Vinci and his diagrams and things that never
That
saw
was
to
too
fruition. But
cool.
yeah, just the fact that they were even thinking that this was possible. I still look at airplanes now and I just like, okay, but really, how does this actually lift up and go into the sky? And you look at the little cockpit with the whole 747 behind it and go, how do those little controls control that whole thing?
Have
I
you
find it all
seen the
amazing.
number 21 Condor? That thing looks like a kid's invention, but I would love to go in that one and be like that little kid that builds their little wooden airplane again. But yes,
Yeah, no, it'd be good fun.
the first lot of airplanes, I would love to try maybe the Newport or the Camel
Yep,
and
yep.
classic Fokker triplane, but I wouldn't
Yeah, I
fly
would
the
I would love to have a
Ioniq.
crack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
I've
like
flown the Tiger
that's my
Moth and Chipmunk,
favorite.
that sort of thing, quite a lot. I'd love to fly some of those World War I aircraft. They're just brilliant. The real tail draggers.
Well, yes, the pioneers of aviation, the very pioneers. Now, I think you touched this briefly, but how old were you when you started learning to fly?
Yeah, so it was 1995. So it was just after high school. So I was about 18, 19 when I started.
That's amazing. And I love it. Sorry. My favorite one is how did you get into aerobatics?
Oh, well, the Aero Club. So yeah, like I said, learned at the Royal Air Club WA in Jandakot, and they had Cessna 152 Aerobats and the Tiger Moth and Chipmunk. So the good thing about that, and it's something that's missing these days, is we got to fly some aerobatics whilst we're doing effects controls and straight and level and that sort of stuff. It was very common if we did a trial flight, that part of that would be we might go do a barrel roll or loop or something. Um, so we could do it throughout it was GFPT back then, now the RPL. So again, yeah, an aeroplane goes upside down. Like, who doesn't want to do that? I know I was watching your video and you were having to go with Paul and experiencing G
But
forces and rolls and things and your fear of heights, and that was like awesome. It's just good
I
fun, isn't
love
it? It's like,
it was the first time I actually had my eyes open when I did that. So, and the great
yeah,
thing was with Paul, he was actually explaining all the how we're going through it and talking with. So I actually felt really, really comfortable doing those. And I felt proud afterwards and like I had a few wines, but it was amazing and you just got to practice it. And I thought, well, it's kind of something for everybody. Like when you do a joy flight, people
yeah,
actually go, just let us know if you don't want to do that. And I thought that's amazing. That's amazing. It's like we can do the barrel roll, we can do the aileron
it is, and
roll.
it
I
doesn't
love
need
it.
to be gut wrenching. You can still do it really nice and gracefully, and good energy management, and can be really pleasant and exciting. And I think most people get a little bit anxious and nervous about it, but once they get to do it, then they
I
realize it's just great fun.
for I think it's for someone who was frightened of heights. It was the fear of not being in control as well. So it's kind of okay. Just sit back, relax, let it go, deep breath. You've got this. Magic word for
Yeah,
everything is you've got this.
yeah, and just keep
Yeah.
practicing. That's it.
Oh yeah, I've kind of developed a bug for it, so it'd be cool to learn and I kind of want to do more. I did one in a
Yeah.
Wirraway. That was epic. That was beautiful. All right, your favorite aviation moment.
Oh, look, I've been so lucky. There's so many things that I've done, but look, the current one would have to be flying the Mallard.
That
Absolutely,
would
just
be
a privilege and
amazing.
an honor to be flying that. But the and that's just about a once in a lifetime opportunity. So few people get to do that. But as a civilian, I back when Red Bull Air Race was going on in Perth. The company I worked for was involved with all of that and bringing all the aircraft down and assembling them and everything else. And part of that was I was doing aerial photography and videography stuff at the time. And I got to go up with roulette number 4 and went out on a flight with the roulettes. They're operating the PC-9s at the time, and yeah, went out and was taking photos of a few of the Rebel pilots as they went, and one of my bosses was in the lead aircraft, and it just you can't
See, that's
put
amazing.
a price on that. It was just an absolute chance in a lifetime, and
No, though I love watching the roulettes.
so
They're one of
good.
my favorites. And I thought, would I be scared to be in that? And I'll be like, oh hell no. Hell no.
you
It would be
you just do it.
it,
Yeah. No, look, we went out to Rottnest Island and did some of the routine out there and a photo shoot with the helicopters just to get some shots and stuff. Because that was the year that Matt Hall was about to start the following year. So it was 2019. And he was about to start. So it was a bit of a joint Rebel Air Race / RWAF promo. And I guess to top that week off, 2 days earlier, we operated Nanchang, CJ-68 Nanchangs, and we flew up with Kirby Chambliss and his Edge up to Pierce Air Force Base and did a bit of a press junket with Matt. And then we flew back down the coast and did a photo shoot with the F-18 and Matt in the back seat. And so, yeah, formation with an F-18 and flying with the roulettes 2 days later, which was just, that was a pretty awesome week. I don't think you could top that.
I think you're going to have a great wall of accomplishments all in that. All the photos.
Yes, I've got the photos behind me right here. I've got 2 big photos, one of me in the back seat of the PC-9 and the other one with Kirby and Matt in formation. I'll send you a photo in a minute.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, you just topped my bucket list because I want to go fly with Matt Hall, and I think when he flies, I think he'll fly in style. So I'll be like, hold on to your hats, people. We're going to go for that adventure. It'll be amazing. Now, how did your podcast Flight Training Australia come about?
Yeah, good question. So I've been, I started, as I said, I'm doing videography and photography for a long time, and obviously mixing my passions of flying and photos, awesome, too easy, heaps of stuff to photograph. So I started doing, when PowerPoint sort of started becoming a thing, I was one of the first to put together some really good PowerPoints for flight school and sold those. And then I sort of thought, I'd love to get into the video market and that sort of stuff, but just time and I think confidence as well really held myself back with confidence, because especially now, look at social media things, you see, you put yourself out there and the trolls just start smashing you and everything else. So I didn't do it. And then my wife was listening to, Audible and audiobooks and that sort of stuff. And she said, look, why don't you do a podcast? And I'm like, what's a podcast? So I looked into it and I thought, yeah, okay. Because half the problem as well now is just the time. To put together a decent YouTube video and all that takes so much time with putting it all together, then filming it and editing it. And, it's quite a lengthy process. And even now I still struggle to get the time for that. But the podcast was something that I could do reasonably time efficiently, put together a bit of a script on the subject matter, research my regs or whatever else I needed to do, and then knock one out in a few hours. So that's what I started to do. And aimed to sort of do one a week. And I've pretty much kept to that over the last few years. I started trying to do 2 a week and then realized that was stupid. It doesn't seem like much, even for a 15, 20-minute episode, but just with everything else going on in life, it sometimes can be big.
I love the way you talk about subjects as well, because we don't have many Australian aviation podcasts. And it's, for me, when I was looking for podcasts, I was looking for something with student pilot content. And you do actually feature some of those in like how to get a job overseas and what to do and some of the common mistakes student pilot makes when they're doing a review. And I thought, this is actually quite good. I can listen to this when I can go for a walk, or I can, just at home.
Yeah, exactly.
The other love of housework. But
yes. That's what it's there for. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got some really good content. I love it. And I remember seeing you pop up in like when you're an aviation enthusiast, like scrolling through things and it came up. I'm like, oh, I'll share this. This is good. This looks like an Aussie Dad podcast. Let's go. Because when you're dealing with USA, they have different terminology and different things, like they refer to things in gallons instead of liters and pounds instead of kilos, and it can get quite confusing too. So
Yeah, there's a lot of American content out there, which, if it's about how to fly a plane, and it's fine, that works. But just the difference in terminology and airspace and bits and pieces, even though everything's meant to be okay or standardized, it's still not. And just to be able to talk about Australian rules and regs, it definitely fills a niche. And I've had, like students like yourself, just help them get through their instrument rating or their instrument rating renewal, their CPL, PPL theory, or all that sort of thing. And just try to keep the content sort of even and distributed across the board. Like I said, for charter pilots, that sort of thing, and just interesting people to interview. But the interviews don't happen as often as I perhaps like, because just, again, the back and forward of organizing when's a good time and everyone's schedules trying to line up, and then it's obviously a longer episode and editing and that sort of stuff. But I've got heaps of people on there that I want to get to, Matt being one of them, and I'd love to talk to Sully one day, but he's a bit harder to get through to. So, just keep chipping away and giving everyone what they want, and answering their questions, that sort of stuff, so they can always reach out and message me if there's a topic that they'd like covered, or they're having an argument about it.
Shout out if Sully's watching. Hey, Sully, Trent Robinson. Hey.
Yeah, give me a buzz, Sully. I want to have a chat.
Give a buzz. Oh, he would be amazing to talk to, because
very similar topics, like with just the quality and standards of flying and flight training. He's very big on at the moment in America. So really trying to reduce the hours and requirements to try and meet the commercial standards, or the commercial needs rather, to get people in cockpits. But again, if you start doing that, there's a consequence, and we need to be careful with that here as well.
I know when, like, I'm a student pilot doing it for recreational, for the fun of it, and eventually maybe want to learn a tiger morph. And I think for the recreational pilots, sometimes when they see commercials, like, oh yeah, that may not be relevant, but the basic fundamentals can be the same. Like, obviously how to fly, how to take off and land, weight distribution, and things like that. So all right, so that will move us on to the next question. The one thing I love about aviation is everyone you meet is friendly and caring. What advice would you give for future pilots?
Listen to my podcast, probably. No.
Yeah.
Look, like you say, just like you say, that just everyone from RA through the GA, it depends on what your destination is, what you want to achieve. And sometimes you don't even know that at the beginning. You might be like you and start out doing some RA stuff, and you go, I want to fly something a bit bigger or heavier or faster or whatever, and convert to GA later on. It all comes down to everyone's career aspirations and budgets. But just, I guess, throwing it back to the question, really, just talk to people. Have an idea of what you want to do, but usually that's a little bit uninformed. So just talk to others and get an idea and a feel, listen to their stories, what they did, what worked, what didn't work, how to go about it, what aircraft are good, what flight schools are good. Don't be afraid to, talk to the flight school if you're not happy with what's going on. I'm not really a subscriber of the customer is always right. We always know that's a bit of a misquoted
I like
quote.
retail, I know.
Yeah, but it's sort of been misquoted. But you need to listen to what the flight school says, because they're the ones that are going to be delivering the training, and they do know best. But if you're having issues, just speak up. And again, if it's not working out, don't be afraid to change flight schools. You can do that. But that's a very minor occurrence, generally speaking. So just talk to lots of people and ask their advice, and think about it, listen to it, weigh it up, and if multiple people are all saying the same thing, there's probably some truth in it.
I always thought meeting and greeting your flight school, so do a trial flight with them, and then that way you kind of know how comfortable you are. Like with
Well, absolutely. You want to buy a new TV, you don't just grab one, do you? You go to
my
the Good Guys or Harvey Norman or something, and you watch it and you sort of see what it does and how it works and if it's going to meet your requirements. And this is no different. So
well, it is, and
definitely
then
worthwhile.
you know in your heart when you feel comfortable in the plane that makes you feel like you want to do it because some people might jump in a plane and feel uncomfortable and then
Yeah,
it's sort of like oh maybe this is not the right aircraft and you can talk to them and feel like what suits them. I love it.
yeah,
All
100%.
right. Can you tell us more about your aviation school? So you do the podcast and you have an aviation school, am I right?
Yeah, so
So
obviously Flight Training Australia is the podcast and sort of online stuff, YouTube and that sort of thing. But the Trent Robinson Aviation's my flight school. So I've had that for a bit over 12 months now, and I was one of the first to do the sole instructor Part 141 certificate.
yeah.
So what that means is basically I am the same as a big flight school pretty much, but just me. I can't employ anyone else. So if I get too busy or too, I can't get too big. I can just get too busy. I can't get another instructor to work for me unless I expand to a full Part 141 flight certificate. So that keeps it
Oh wow.
simple, to be honest. So I can basically do everything from beginning right through to instructor training and instrument training. I'm a flight examiner as well, so I do a lot of that sort of thing. Do exams for examiners as well on behalf of CASA, that sort of thing. So yeah, all based up here in Darwin. I
Oh,
typically don't do a lot of the RPL PPL stuff because Darwin Flight Training, sort of my affiliate school. That's where I started out when I moved up to Darwin after I left Care Flight, and they look after the RPL PPL side, and I tend to do all the advanced training. So
oh.
yeah, very very busy at the moment. We don't do a lot of commercial training up here in Darwin because everyone kind of comes up here with it already typically. So the initial training is for people that live here already. There's a little bit of commercial training, which is more foreign license conversion of people coming to Darwin to get a job. But otherwise, yeah, it's all the multi-engine instrument instructor training and a lot of check and training for a lot of the operators. I help them out with their twin upgrades and that sort of thing as well. And then when I have a little bit of spare time, I fly the Mallard. Yeah,
Yeah. I like it. I'd probably make time for the mallard just for like a little
it's not
uh,
hard. It's. I'm very lucky. It's not like working. It's a long day. A lot of fun flying on the water and that sort of thing. We fly from Darwin to Broome and Port Bremer and all these beautiful locations, Kiri Bay, the Osborne Islands and the Kimberley, and it's just yeah, it's stunning. So it's an early morning and all that sort of thing, but it's totally worth it. So yeah, I'm
and
happy.
that's how you start your day in something that you love. I'd breathe in that if I got to do like a tiger moth or a warbird first up. I'd be in my element. So it's very
Well,
hard to
that's it,
come
isn't it?
down.
If you love
It
what you're doing,
is.
are you really working? So yeah,
Well, yeah. When you're a student pilot and you kind of see warbirds on the film, you sort of learn try to rein it in. It's like, oh, that's exciting. All right, I'm in lesson mode. That's cool.
yeah,
And the scenery is sometimes hard too. When you fly over Bribie, you're like, oh, isn't this amazing? How lucky we are in Australia. And then you're like, oh, lesson time, lesson time. It's
no, that's
hard.
it.
Um,
Yeah,
now,
that's it.
uh, where would you like to end up in the next 10 years? I hit the hard
Oh,
questions, don't I?
like with my career.
Korea,
Look,
anything.
still doing it. Hopefully, unless I win lotto, and then sorry
Yeah.
everyone, I'm out of here. Nah, um, I think probably I'd love to have a lot more online course material finished. So that's what I'm working on at the moment is to have some really practical, useful, I guess the video interactive versions of the podcast that there'll be courses that'll be available for people to purchase and help them through with things as well. So not doing ground school theory so much, but just ground theory for the practical flying aspects. I think
Oh,
that will help, and that will do a lot of fill a lot of gaps of where people are struggling with their flying and that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely look at doing that. Flying cool aeroplanes and you know just not working too hard, I guess.
So if you got more planes on your bucket list?
To fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I'd love definitely. Look, since leaving Jandakot, I've not been doing as much aerobatics and formation and all that sort of stuff. So I'd love to be in a place where I can get back into that and flying warbirds. Like I'd love flying the Texan and
Oh, I
also
love
the
the
Tiger
sound
and all
of.
that sort of stuff. But I'm heading across to you guys again in June, July for the UPRT conference with Paul there, and so definitely looking forward to taking the Super D up for a spin and
Now I
getting
know
upside
there's a
down and
gorgeous
doing a few
little
other things. So,
Texan as well. If you want to go for a fly in that one, the
what was that,
Texan is
sorry?
in there's a Texan at Caboolture. It's like you went to QAM, Queensland Air Museum, and they got a lot of cool stuff in there. And I feel like you could spend a whole day there and still feel like you haven't seen everything. And because
Oh,
you get,
definitely. Yeah, and the volunteers were fantastic there when I went. They one of the guys took us through the DC-3 and the Orion, and we just sat in there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just chatting and talking about all things flying and that. So yeah, you can definitely have a great day out there, but it's always better to see them flying, isn't it?
oh, absolutely. I feel that I saw the Neptune fly down in Illawarra. That was amazing. And then
Yeah,
when I went back to Adelaide, I saw the Hudson fly, and I thought I never thought I'd see one of those fly. And you see all
yeah.
the warbirds, and one day, hopefully one day, I would love to be able to fly them, just be able to take it up and not do aerobatics in it because I want to look after it, but it would just be
No,
amazing
you can
from
still look
start.
after it and go upside down.
Yeah. Oh, I think when I discovered the Wirraway is probably 79 to 80 years old now, and she done aerobatics, and I'm like, I hope I'm still that mobile at 79. But it was amazing because I've seen that one in air shows. I don't know if you've seen the Wirraway 695. It's got
Not
the
that
six.
particular one, but
No, well, she flies in a lot of air shows, and when I said, "Oh, I really, really want to go in this one because I love seeing it do its thing," and I thought, how cool would it be, like tick off the bucket list? And then I flew it from Mount Tibrogargan to Wirram and over Bribie, and then I said, "You can have it back now. Now let's do some aerobatics." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, just give me whatever. I'm happy." And
yeah.
it's and then you spend hours after like bucket list tick.
Well, you
So
need to head over to Wanaka or Omaka and then see all those World War One, well, Peter Jackson's collection and that sort of thing.
oh
Some
yes,
amazing
I've
old
heard how
aeroplanes there.
amazing they are, and I've seen videos, and it makes me jealous that I haven't been there yet. But I do want to go to New Zealand and see their
All in good time.
museums. And I do want to go to Darwin and see, because you've got a few cool things up there, and
Yeah, the
explore.
B-52s there and some of the Darwin bombing
Yeah, it's
artifacts
gonna.
and stuff is there. So
Well, yeah, it's gonna be amazing because I love history. I never used to like it in high school, but then once things started coming to light and how things work, aviation was like the leading edge of technology. And I was always
mm.
surprised that I think it was World War II, they had cameras in some of their planes. And I thought, and we've only just discovered GoPros?
Yeah, no, they had the gun sight cameras and all that. It was pretty special. It just shot some frames. It was all linked to the cannon button. So when they fired the gun, it fired the camera at the same time and recorded the hits and things. So
It would be
yeah,
cool to
but you
get
have to
some
try and
of
get
the.
up here to Darwin when Pitch Black's on. So that's coming up in end of July or middle July, and about 15, 16 countries coming, all sorts of fighter bombers and support aircraft, all sorts of fighter aircraft and bombers, that sort of thing coming up.
Oh,
And
I
yeah, so
want
if you
to
love
go.
your fighter jets and things, you'll see all sorts of aircraft that you'd never otherwise see in Australia. So it's very
I
cool.
think if they say, "Would you like to come for a ride in any of them?" I'll be like, "Yes."
Yeah, that
I
would be
think
a tough sell, I think, that one. But yeah, you never know your luck.
I'll be like, "Please don't do anything where I'll be sick." But if they said, "Would you like a ride in a C-17?" I'll be like, "Yes." and if they do tandems and stuff like that, and I'll be like, oh hell yeah, it's an adventure these days. You can always just open it and just go for it. That's how
Yeah,
I
don't say
see
no,
it.
just go for it for sure.
Exactly. It's scary when you skydive at first, but it's kind of like, that was cool. Can we do it again? Some people. Some people.
Yeah.
But now, I'd love to see you if you ever come to Queensland again and say hi. I bet you, it sounds like you're coming again. So who knows? If you're
Yeah,
there
I'll
on
be
the
there for the UPOT conference on the June the 28th. So I'll be there that week. So yeah, be
no,
floating around. I'll see you there.
I'll shout you a coffee if you drink
Sounds
it.
good.
So well, that concludes our interview. Keep out for more to come in the coming months, and